So, good morning, everyone. Today, we are going to start the new chapter that is the biological classification, right, of the class 11th. And this chapter, we will be dealing it from the NEET level, as there are 2 to 3 questions were asked from this chapter every year, right? So, in the very first chapter, we have seen about the characters of the living organisms as the number is very large, right? So there is the diversity was also there. So based on the diversity and based on the characters and all, those organisms were arranged based on the taxonomic hierarchy, and to study about those organisms we were using the taxonomical aids like botanical gardens, zoological parks, right? So in the very next chapter, that is the biological classification, in this chapter firstly we will discuss on based on what criteria those classifications were carried out, right? Based on which criteria the living organisms were classified, some species into animals, some species into plants, some species into fungal species, some species into bacterial species. So there might be some set of criteria, right? So without criteria and without any character, we cannot classify the organisms. So for what reason we are classifying the organisms? To study about them, to study about their interaction with the surrounding nature. So the very first system of classification was carried, the very first system of classification, that is the earliest system of classification, earliest system of classification. This system of classification it was generally based upon the uses or the needs. So this system of classification, it generally included those species for what reason they are being useful to the mankind. So the needs generally we know: food, second one that is the clothing, and the third one that is the shelter, right? So here the organisms or the living organisms and the species were classified on the nature of their use, on what way they are useful to the mankind, right? So this system of classification doesn't have any sense of scientific notation. So the next system of classification which was put forward by Aristotle, that is Aristotle's classification system. He just made an attempt to classify the species. He just made an attempt to classify the species based on the morphological characters. He just made an attempt to classify the species based on the morphological characters. So that is Aristotle's system of classification. So this system of classification, it was based on morphological characters. This was based on morphological characters, means the physical appearance, right? So the Aristotle, he divided the species into two categories: the plants, the first category, the living organisms. The first one is the plant, and the second one is the animal. Though the plants, as if they are totally fixed, they do not change their position and all, right? Again, the plants were based upon their heights. So again, the plants were classified based upon their height, like herbs, shrubs, trees. Based upon the, it was totally based upon the outer physical appearance only. So while coming to the animals, depending upon their blood, they had this Aristotle had classified the animals with red blood, red blood, classified the species with red blood, and another one is without red blood. So, based on the physical appearance only, he had made an attempt to classify the organisms. Right. So, in case of plants, he had seen about the height, and in case of animals, he had seen the color of the bloods, their color of their blood. So, this system, he just made a simple attempt to classify the organisms. Somewhat a sense of scientific attempt was there in the Aristotle's classification system. So, now coming to the next system of classification, that is careless linear system of classification. That is careless linear system of classification, right? As this system of classification, it was totally based upon the presence of cell wall. This was based upon the based on the cell wall. So while coming to the Aristotle system, we see that it was based upon the morphological characters, right? But to more and little bit more advanced, this careless system of classification, it was based upon the cell wall, right? So the organisms which were having the cell wall, they were placed under the plants, and those organisms which are absent of cell wall, they were placed under the animals. So this was based upon the presence of cell wall. So if the cell wall is present, they were plants. Cell wall present or absent. In case of the, if the cell wall is present, then they were grouped under plants. If the cell wall is absent, they were grouped under animals. So simply, he just made one criteria to classify the organisms, and so many other drawbacks were there. And his system is also known as two kingdom classification. Here, plant is the one kingdom, and the animals are the second kingdom of on his method of classification of the organisms. So, as if he made now, there were some drawbacks were also there. What are the drawbacks? There was no distinction between the prokaryotes and eukaryotes. No distinguishing. No distinguishing between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, right? No distinguishing between unicellular and multicellular. So there were some set of drawbacks, and this system was not even accepted by all over the scientists. So now coming to the this system was also known as if I had already mentioned, it is two kingdom system. The entire living world classified into two kingdoms, right? Now coming to the three kingdom classification that was given by Ernest Haeckel. That was given by Ernest Haeckel. Three kingdom classification. It was given by Ernest Haeckel. It was given by Ernest Haeckel. Right. It was little bit more advanced. Right. So this three kingdom, he made the species. He divided the species based on the number of the cell. Right. The species those who were having the one celled species, they were grouped under one kingdom, and those species which are having the multiple number of cells, they were grouped under the rest two kingdoms based upon the plants or the animals, right? So this three kingdom classification system included the new emergence of the new kingdom, that is protista. Emergence of the new kingdom, that is protista, right? So the three kingdom include protista, plantae, and milia, right? The one of the drawback of this system was that Ernest Haeckel, he had placed all the unicellular prokaryotes, all the unicellular eukaryotes under one system only, under one kingdom only. He had placed all the organisms with those who are having the unicellular prokaryotic organization, they were placed under protista, and those who are having the unicellular eukaryotic organization of the body, they were grouped under the kingdom protista. This was a very peculiar drawback of this system of classification. Even though even some multicellular species were also placed under the protista kingdom. So the drawback of this system include, drawback is that no different no distinguishing between unicellular prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The first one, even some multicellular organisms, multicellular algae were also included. Even some multicellular organisms were included, like algae, which was even included under the kingdom protista, right? So as if this system of classification is also having some drawback. So now coming to the next system of classification, that is the four kingdom classification system. That is the four kingdom classification. It is a four kingdom classification. So here they had divided the entire living organisms into four categories. Into four categories. The first category is the Monera. In the four kingdom classification system only, we had seen the emergence of the new kingdom, that is the Moneran kingdom. Monera. And this kingdom of classification was given by Copeland. Who had given? Copeland was a scientist who had given the this four kingdom classification system, right? So in the three kingdom classification we saw now, there was a new kingdom that it included the unicellular prokaryotes and unicellular eukaryotes, right? Here that Protestant kingdom is again divided into two categories, two kingdoms: Moneran kingdom, Protestant kingdom, Plantae and Anglia. So the first kingdom of the four kingdom classification included Monera. The second one, it includes the Protista. The third kingdom, that is the Plantae, and the third kingdom, and the fourth one, that is the Animalia, right? So in Moneran kingdom, if we see, we will find all the unicellular prokaryotes. You will find unicellular prokaryotes, right? In Protestant kingdom, we will find unicellular eukaryotes. These are multicellular eukaryotes, multicellular eukaryotes. See, in the Copeland system, he had included all the unicellular prokaryotes under the one kingdom Monera, and he had in the under the kingdom Protista, he had included all the unicellular eukaryotes. Plantae, they are the multicellular eukaryote. As the see, the level of organization is being increasing. So earlier it was the unicellular prokaryotes. Then again to the next kingdom it was the unicellular eukaryotes. To that next fixed, they are the fixed one, right? Plants, they do not have they don't change their position. They are the multicellular eukaryotes. The next one, that is the Animalia, that is the multicellular eukaryotes only. Means depending upon the nature. So the diversification from unicellular species to the multicellular species, and the organization of the cell structure from the prokaryotes to the advanced eukaryotes, this system of classification. The very drawback of this system, it was, even though they had placed the kingdom fungi, the fungal species were also placed under the plant kingdom, right? As they are having the presence of the cell wall. So the fungal species, they are having the cell wall, nah? So due to that reason only, even the fungal species were also placed under the third kingdom, that is the planting. So drawback, let me write here. Drawback is that fungal species were grouped under plant kingdom. Fungal species were grouped under plant kingdom, but we know the fungal species, their cell wall is made up of chitin, right? fungal species fungal species cell wall is chitin, but as if they are having the cell wall, they were grouped under plants, right? This was the only drawback of this system. So the now coming to the five kingdom classification system that was given by R.H. Whittaker. Now coming to the five kingdom classification system that was given by R.H. Whittaker. Let me Let me first draw the box for that. Kingdom classification. In the year 1969, this five kingdom classification had been put forward by the renowned scientist R.H. Whittaker. And this system of classification is also known as Whittaker's classification system. Right? So, before discussing about the kingdoms of this system, so what are the criterias this R.H. Whittaker had taken to classify the species? The first thing is that the first structure here, the first criteria he had taken, it was the cell structure. The second criteria he had taken is the body structure. The third criteria he had taken is the mode of nutrition. The fourth one they had taken about the reproduction, how the species they are kind of maintaining the number of reproduction. The fifth criteria it was taken about the phylogenetic relationships. The fifth criteria it was phylogenetic relation, means from the primitive to the most advanced category. So these all criteria, if we will see the structure, cell structure, prokaryotic and eukaryotes, body structure, unicellular or multicellular, uni or multi, mode of nutrition, autotrophic, heterotrophic or mexotrophic, right, like euglenoids, right? Mode of nutrition is auto, hetero or mixo. Reproduction is vegetative, sexual, asexual, asexual then sexual method, right? So even though asexual method we can consider under vegetative kingdom. I mean it's different. If we see about the fungal species now, there is so many differences are there. Okay, now phylogenetic relation it include it has been this system of classification had been put forward based on the phylogenetic from which species they might have originated, right? The earlier species, suppose there's a protestant species were there, it was originated from the mononuclear with some set of differences, as if that is the main reason, means it was based upon the primitive to advanced. Primitive to it was this system was arranged, the primitive species were kept first, then to the next advanced and to the next advanced and to the next advanced. Primitive to advanced, primitive to advanced system. So now let us see what are the kingdoms are there according to R.H. Whittaker, right? The first kingdom it include the Monera. The second kingdom it include Protista. The third kingdom, here the origination of the new kingdom, that is the fungi, non-chlorophyte, non-chlorophytic chlorophytic organisms, fungi or fungus. And the fourth kingdom, that is the plantae. And the fifth kingdom, that is the animalia, right? And the fifth kingdom that is the Animalia. So if we will see how the species were arranged according to their major ecological role, firstly we'll put the Monerian species as they are totally primitive. After that Monerian species, we will find the Protestant species. So Protista, this Protestant kingdom, it forms a major connecting link between the Monerian plants also, animals also, and even the bacterial species also. Okay, so the first, the lower one, we put the Monera. The second one, it is the Protista, fungi, Animalia, plantae. So this Protestant kingdom, it forms a connecting link between all of these kingdoms. Connecting link between plantae, animalia, and fungi. Okay, connecting link between plant, animal, and fungi. So firstly, I am putting the fungi, plant, animal. So if we will see, there are some Monera species which can produce their own food, right? Monera also, Protista also. These three I can put under producer. Monera, Protista, and even this fungi I can put them under decomposer. So the fungal species that decompose the detritus, right? The fungal species decompose the bio waste. And coming to the animalia, they are the consumers. So drawback is that there was no differentiation between the archaebacteria, even the extreme bacteria or those bacteria which can survive in the extreme regions, they were also placed under the Monerian kingdom only. Okay, so the drawbacks are there. Even there was no place for the viruses. Let me write the drawbacks. Okay, there was no place for virus, viroids, prions, even the lichens. Right, these are the different type of species where these species were not even included in the five kingdom classification. So even though our NCRT follows this five kingdom classification system, the next kingdom classification of system, that is six kingdom classification system. Six kingdom, or we can say it as three domain system. It was given by Carl Woos, Otto Candler. Right, this was given by Carl Woos and Otto Candler. So three domains were there. First domain was the archaea. The second domain is the eubacteria, archaea, bacteria. The third domain, it included all the eukaryotic species into eukarya. So these two, so you can understand, you can even see that this archaebacteria and eubacteria, this the sixth kingdom classification, they had divided this Monerian kingdom into two other kingdoms, or they made the two domains of it. Okay, the first domain was the archaebacteria. These are the species which can survive in the extreme conditions, right? Even this bacteria, they can survive in the normal conditions also. And eukaryota, it included all the protista, fungi, plantae, animalia. So this system of classification, up to this we are done with today.